In this presentation, we're going to be looking at Bifrost, Maya's powerful new procedural effects platform that can generate liquid simulations. Bifrost is developed from the industry-renowned Naiad technology and further refined for enhanced ease of use. We're going to be using Bifrost to do an effect shot where the ship comes down and crashes into the ocean. So to do this, we need to get a couple pieces of geometry. One of them is going to be the geometry to emit the liquid from, and the other piece of geometry is going to be a collision object or a pool to hold that liquid. So let's go ahead and turn that on. We'll go and we'll select our object that we want to emit from, and we'll just say Bifrost, create liquid. As soon as we do that, you can see that we now have some particles displaying our simulation at frame 1. Let's go ahead and add to our selection this collider. So we'll just say Bifrost, add collider, and we'll grab the ship object and we'll add that to the collider. So we've got a pool that's being generated to capture the water. We've got a ship coming down that's going to crash into the water. So now we're ready to begin simming this. Notice what happens in my time slider when I hit my playhead. What's going on here is Maya is sending information off to Bifrost. Bifrost lives externally of Maya. It actually doesn't know anything about Maya. Maya dumps data into Bifrost. Bifrost computes that information and it immediately starts sending it back to Maya. So this is actually really pretty cool, and it's going to allow us to do some pretty interesting things with Bifrost moving forward in the future. So as my sim is updating here in the background, I can begin working on top of it. Because it's decoupled from Maya and it's a completely independent process, it allows me to go in here and start doing other things. I could be modeling, or I could be doing look dev on the environment. So let's go ahead and turn on some classic Maya fluids to kind of get some hazy environment effects happening. After I've got some frames kind of queued up, I might go into the options for the way we display those in Viewport 2.0 and start modifying those so that I can get a better sense of how that simulation is actually moving around. So let's go ahead and just bring up the attribute editor and dive into the Bifrost shaped node. So on this shaped node, we're presented with all the options for dealing with the view of these particles inside of Maya. So how are we going to look at the velocity? Right now, that's what the color is being derived from, is this velocity. Actually, we're just going to turn off that water emitter too. We don't need to see that guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this velocity information, and we're not seeing a lot of that ramp right now, so we're going to remap that down to a lower value, something like a value of 3. So as soon as I do that, you start to get a sense of where those particles are moving quickly, and I can use these ramp modifiers to kind of interactively play around with this. And while this is happening, Bifrost is still in the background churning away and making that simulation for me. So there's a couple of other things that Bifrost can do that are really pretty cool. Obviously, we're looking at the particles right now. We have the option to also show the voxelized space. Bifrost can actually render the voxel space, the ISO surface, directly without going through the process of meshing. Obviously, if you want more control, you can go into the meshing tab, and that's also in the same shape node. And this is where Bifrost is going to use its new particle mesher to really extract and get that overall effect of what you want to see on your final render. So if we turn on that meshing, I could start dialing in this and adjusting, the reveal factors. How tightly do I want that meshing engine to crank onto those particles? So lots of control and work can be done in Bifrost in Maya as Bifrost is in the background churning away and working. So now our sim's basically solved. It looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and rub through this in our scratch cache. So the idea here is that we've interactively built up a sim using a relatively low resolution to it. The voxels are kind of large, but it gives me a good sense of what this starts to look like, and it's computed all that data onto the scratch cache. When it comes time to do the final render or the final sim, what we would do is we'd increase the resolution. We'd go to the Bifrost container. We'd make the voxel size smaller, therefore increasing the resolution. And we would just simply say Bifrost cache and compute to disk. So once you've made cache files on disk, you can bring that data back in, right? So we'll go ahead and just we'll look at some sims that were done at slightly higher resolution. So we'll bring up the Bifrost options. I'm going to turn off background processing in the scratch cache. We'll go ahead and apply and close this guy, and I'm going to just browse out to my disk and pull in the file that we actually ended up using for the render, which I'll show you in just a bit. So we'll look at the data first inside of Maya, and then I'll show you the finished render. So if we go to Bifrost ship and scroll down here to the first frame of the cache, as soon as we load this up, obviously you're going to notice that there's a lot more particles inside of there. And as I start to jump through my disk-based cache here, you can really get a sense of what that sim looks like. And this is a pretty awesome looking splash Again, all done very quickly and very intuitively inside of Maya. So that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and load up a QuickTime movie of what this guy looks like after it's been simulated out and rendered inside of Mental Ray. So that's just a quick introduction to Bifrost inside of Maya 2015. It really brings a state-of-the-art fluid sim engine right into the hands of artists.